Hey everybody, this is Kenny. Welcome back to another edition of the Yak with Mac. Today we spoke to Operations Manager Ish Garcia. Talk about showing up every day. Listen to his inspirational leadership. You gotta listen in. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Yak with Mac. I am Kenny, and I cannot wait to get to this phenomenal guest. I told you I would find great leaders. I told you I would find interesting leaders, that you would get inspiration from their stories, and wait till you hear from this young man today. So, no more waiting. Let's get right to it. I want to introduce to you Operations Manager Ish Garcia is in the house. Hey Ish, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Glad to finally be on. Glad to be able to do this. So,
Yeah, I should have did this a long time ago, and it is so great to reconnect with you again. And you have such an interesting and inspirational story, not just within T-Mobile or Sprint, but also personally. So I want to get to a lot of that today because you're going to be such an inspiration to so many leaders out there. But I think it's so important because I think this is the foundation of why I really wanted you on. I think it's so important that the audience really hear about your career journey first. So, if you would walk us through your career journey, you could go back as far or as short as you'd like to go back.
yeah, definitely. I'll take a step back and I'll try to make it. I won't try to make it as boring as possible. Try to keep it controlled. But yeah, it all started back out. I've been in telecom altogether for close to 20 years. Fresh out of high school, I was able to get an opportunity to work for Verizon as a tech. And then that was supposed to be a landing point for me. I mean, not a landing point, a stepping stone for me. And I wanted to go on to do bigger, better things. I've been interested in movies, and I wanted to do stuff to do in that. But what happened was, I got a manager I was working for jumped over to Sprint, and he got the opportunity to open up an express store in Newark, New Jersey. So he reached out to me. We worked together. We had a great, camaraderie. And he reached out, and I said, "All right, I'll give you a year." I said, "And then after a year, I'm gonna go back to school and do what I need to do." And he's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So I went in, and I've never done sales before. I was very shy, and I went in and into this express store in Newark, and I haven't looked back since. But I worked my way from being a sales rep, worked my way into a lead in North Bergen, New Jersey. From North Bergen, New Jersey, went into an assistant store manager at the same store. Then I received my first opportunity to run a store in East Hanover, New Jersey, which was a very slow store. A month and a half in, my director at the time then put me into Paramus, Route 4, and I was able to take that store into a whole new heights. Great team that I had there. We were able to really build up that store, and the number one thing I've always focused on was customer service, and that's what we did at that store. So from there, that led me on to, my name kind of became synonymous with cleaning up stores. So I went into Totowa. From Totowa, ran that into top 100. From Totowa, then I was able to see a lot of great careers come up, and influence a lot of people to continue to move forward. Then I went into North Bergen, New Jersey, as a store manager, top 100 as well. Had the opportunity to work into Flatiron from North Bergen, as a store manager. Came back to North Bergen, uh, applied for a couple things. Applied for an opportunity to become a trainer. That didn't pan out. Then I decided to kind of, you know, to make the decision to move away from Sprint for a little while, and I went into Aaron's Lease to Own as a GM for almost a year. I went into a third party dealer. I went and worked as a district manager for them for about 2.5 years. Then went into car sales. Not knowing anything of cars. The only thing I know about cars is A and B from Mario Kart, and that's about it. But customer service is what wins, right? So I was able to kind of go into that. I was a floor leader, had a team of 10, pretty successful at that for a few months. Then I got the opportunity to come back, came back. Not gonna lie, I was a little jaded with telecom for a little bit there from TPR and all that stuff, and kind of like the bouncing around. But I decided I'll come back to core, and again, I'll give you 1 year, right? And then I came back to core and fell in love with it all over again. Ran a great team out of the Total Wall. Went back to the store that kind of started it all, and then from there, but a year and a half in, got promoted into a DM. Was a DM in Brooklyn. Then 6 months out of that, for 6 months, then 6 months came into New Jersey, and then got the opportunity to go into an ops role with Magic Box. Did that for 2 weeks. Was a total of 2 weeks in Magic Box, and I was tapped on the shoulder, and I was asked if I can attend the meeting. Went to a meeting. I'm thinking, I'm just going to collect information. From there, in that meeting, I was given the opportunity to become a CXM, which was a customer experience manager for the entire Northeast. Did that up to the point where the merger happened. Then we went into an integration store manager. I mean, an operations manager. My apologies. And then went into a TPR role of an ops manager. Then went into TPR loyalty. Started that. And then from TPR loyalty, went into core loyalty with a team, with an amazing team. Probably one of the best experiences I've had in telecom in a long time was running wild with that team, right? And then went back into the operations role where I find myself at now. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife.
That's that is an unbelievable career. And
Yeah.
what would you say would be one or two lessons that you've taken away over the years?
My number one thing I'll say is patience, right? A lot of the times I feel like even earlier when I had a little bit of the hiatus, I was young, very cocky. I was confident in my ability. That hasn't changed, right? My confidence is always there, but understanding that everything has to do with timing, and at the right time you'll land the right position, right? If you go for it the first time, you don't get it, it's okay. You know what? We keep trying. You don't just give up, and um, definitely timing has been one in that patience aspect. And then the other is just always continue to put your best foot forward, right? Always lead with positivity. Things are always going to change, right? And the more of a positive outlook you have on it, the easier it's going to be to adapt, right? Because it's a lot of times it's a lot easier for us to kind of, you get put into a position where you don't understand and you don't know anything about it. I'll go back to the car sales. That was something it just an opportunity came up, and I kind of challenged myself and I threw myself in, not knowing anything about the industry whatsoever. All I know is people. I know how to deal with people and how to be able to control the situation. So, I jumped into it from that aspect, and that really just taught me a lot that you can really accomplish anything depending on your outlook. There's people who will always respond, and people will always try to help you depending on what kind of outlook you have. If you come into a position, one jaded, distraught, you're not really going to accomplish anything. You come into a position where you're consistently thinking you're better than anybody else, or you know more than anybody else, nobody's going to be willing to help you. So kind of having that positive outlook, like, hey, you know what? This is a new challenge for me. This is what's ahead of me. I'm gonna make the most of it, and I'm gonna make the most of it by, you know, giving, asking, but giving at the same time, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense, and I love that. And it's so funny because I want to now jump into one of the things that drew me to ask you to come on to the podcast. I wrote down these two words because I wanted to do a couple of podcasts around persevering, but persevering in such a positive way. And you were the first person that came to mind because you've always been just exactly the way people are seeing you right now. You've just always been like this. I've known you a long time.
Yeah.
Always been very positive, but you've always persevered and come out so positive on the other side. And I think part of that is just ingrained in you. But there's some real specific things that have happened even in your life. And you and I had a conversation about your dad last week. So I'd love for you to share some of those things and how you've been able to persevere through some setbacks at times, with the company and setbacks even in your career, but you just come out on the other side and have inspired and influenced so many people. So talk a little bit about that. What is this thing that just continues to drive you, and what has really shaped you become just this awesome positive influencer that you've become?
Well, well, thank you for that. You know me, I don't like talking about myself or anything like that, so I get a little shy. So if I turn red, and that's why the hat is on, so the shadow will keep that. Um, but yeah, I mean, going back to my father, you know, he had some challenges himself, right? So like this close to you, and I have no problem. I'm an open book. Um, he he was in prison. He was incarcerated for some time, and when he got out, you know, it could have been very easy for a man to just say, you know what, I know one thing in life, right, and this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go back to that. But my father didn't. He instead viewed it as, you know, now that I'm out, what can I do, and how can I live for my children? And unfortunately, you know, like I said to you, he passed away. But to the day that he passed on, he was extremely hardworking, and he instilled these great positive values in me and my sister. That we continuously, you know, speak on and believe now, and we hand down to our children, because it was just his manner of being. He never viewed anything in a negative light. You know, he always wanted to be challenged. He would work 16, 17-hour days, come home, you know, take a light cat nap, and then it was back to, you know, talking to his kids, or, you know, just trying to find a way to be a positive influence, right? And that's always stuck with me. I've you know, I have three children of my own, two boys and a girl, and you know, I want to kind of to live up to that, right? So my thing is always, you know, be the man that you want your boys to be, right? To kind of, and then be the man that you would want, you know, your daughter to understand that, you know, she should set that standard for, you know. And not that I want her married or anything like that. I keep telling myself I'll be long in the grave, hopefully, when that happens. But you know, but at least, but that's really what pushes me forward, right? My mother's my you know, my dad being incarcerated, so my mom, it was 9 children, and my mom was a single mother, so she was a very hardworking woman, and
Um,
you know, she kind of instilled in that work ethic in us as well. And we've always pushed forward, you know, anywhere she goes, people are always complimenting. My brothers have been successful in all their, you know, in different things that they're doing. I have a brother who's a captain for a fire team, and he's a firefighter in Newark, New Jersey. Another one's a regional manager. You know, my sisters have done very well for themselves as well. So you know, I attribute that to that being ingrained in me. And then, you know, I myself have always kind of felt that there's always got to be a need to pay it forward, right? Life ain't nothing, and I've said this countless times, but I don't measure my success by my own. I measure my success by how many people have been able to impact around me that have been successful as well. Because you surround yourself with that success, right? That's just going to continue to propel you forward. And you said that, you know, perseverance, right? It's like, you know, there's a running joke. It's like, hey man, like you're like the cockroach in the apocalypse, right? Like when the things happen, but that's because of that. You know, I really continue to push forward. You know, if there's a great opportunity for me, if something happens where I have to take 2 steps back, I look at it as, all right, take 2 steps back now, because I'm gonna take a huge leap going forward. You know, I'll be able to kind of learn from that and continue to move forward. So that's always been my thing. It's just like, you know, it's not about, you're not your issues, right? Things are gonna happen to you. Life is not gonna work out the way you want it. But I can sit here and wallow, and I can sit here and look at it and get jaded, and look at it in a sense where that negativity is going to keep me down. Or I can take that current opportunity I have now to help me propel myself into where I really want to be. And so far it's worked, you know, to the degree that I'm in a with a great team. I'm in a great position. I love the company I work for. And, you know, I just continue to look forward and look for those 100 feet ahead. Like, you know, what can I do now, and how can I impact, and how can I help? So make myself readily available, and, you know, and try to be that example, lead by example in all aspects of my life, you know, my children, work, You know, at church, anything that I do, it's always lead by example.
It's such pure leadership, and you have really no idea how many people watch you day in and day out and look at you day in and day out. And I want to go back to one other thing, because one of the overused, I think, cliches in corporate now is show up every day. You got to show up every day, and okay, there's a lot of validity to that. But man, oh man, when you told me about what your dad did every day, how he showed up every day,
Yeah,
how
yeah,
that's impacted you, talk a little bit about that, because that's showing up
yeah,
every day.
yeah. That's a great story. And it's fantastic. I love to share this consistently with anybody who asks me these things. And what we're talking about is so my father kind of, when he got out, it was an you know, adapting period for him, and he kind of just wanted to make his life about his kids. So you know, he had the apartment with him, and you know, great apartment. You know, he's very OCD'd, right? So he liked things this way, um, but he didn't like to go out, right? It was more of a necessity thing. He went to the supermarket. He loved Walmart. So if we had to go to Walmart, we would make sure we went early when there was nobody there, so we could get out, right? But his thing was he was always dressed up. So he would have, you know, button down shirt, um, and all of that. You know, like if he was got like the guy who just got out of prom or something, right? But so for a while I observed him and I always watched him, and he was always buying, you know, getting his pants tailored. He always had Italian shoes on, and I'm like, okay, like, so is he planning something but he never did. He never went out. So one day I sat down with him and I asked him, and I said, hey, you know, I said, if it's just us and we're just coming and we see you, like, what's the big deal? He goes, well, here's the thing. He's like, you know, I got to go answer the door. And when I open the door, you don't know who's going to drive by and who's going to see me. So I'm a representation of you. So I need to make sure that when somebody sees that my son's getting to the door, that they see that their father is well kept,
Wow.
to the door disheveled, you know, and this and that stuck with me. That stuck with me big time, because it's, you know, a lot of the times you get caught up in the little things, and it's like, you know, even during the pandemic, right? We're like working from home and stuff. It's like you're like, oh, I can do this and I can do that, but that was always in my head, because you never know, you know, who's gonna see you and what kind of impact you're gonna make on somebody, big or small, you know. And he was always worried about those little details. You know, he always wanted to make sure he represented the family well. So, you know, at the slight chance that anybody would even see him, as quickly as he opened the door and closed it, right? He wanted to make sure he was well represented, and he represented us well. So that carried on with us. And you know, at 15 years old, you know, my mentality kind of changed, and it was the same for him. So anywhere I went, you know, I was always you know, well, yeah, I would, how do you say, I would behave well. Not only that, I was always well dressed and all these little things, just because I didn't want to come back to my dad like, hey, I saw your son and your son looks like crazy. And that representation thing, it's big on me. So I've carried that into my business, and it's every day, like you said, every day you come up and you show up. You know,
Yeah.
even in pandemic, I would have full on uniform on. You know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I mean, what your dad did, that's showing up, and that is the
yeah,
ultimate example of
yeah,
doing that. And you could tell it really influenced you, and I love that. And that's the example of showing up every day, man.
every day.
I gotta, while we have you on, I gotta take advantage of, you're a guy who's just always been in the trenches, you know, and even now in your current position, you're out in stores, you're talking to customers, you're talking to employees every day. Um, and between the 20 years and the different places that you've been, I got to take advantage of your leadership expertise, because you are a great leader. What's a couple of things that you've seen change and evolve over the years? And what would be some advice when you're out there in the field that you give not only leaders, but frontline folks that aspire, you know, to be leaders and to move on? What are some things that you've seen that's changed, and what would be one or two things, pieces of advice that you would give or you have given as you've been out there recently?
Yeah, I mean, my thing has always been, and from a leadership perspective, right? I'll go with the one thing that I feel like is always underlying the foundation of it. And it's the same advice I give constantly is, right? we manage things, right? But we lead people. So in order to lead people, you lead by, personality, and you got to get to know your folks, right? That human touch, so to speak. So being able to kind of connect with someone in a way where, it could be the smallest thing, but, acknowledging that and allowing them to be themselves to the point where then at that point you can kind of use that to help, mold this person. It was done for me, I've never said, and I don't talk much about like, the negative leaders I've had, because I feel like regardless of which, every leader I've been under has had some type of positive influence on me, right? Because whether I learned from them what not to do, or I picked up from them what to do.
Mm.
So I feel like that's definitely the biggest thing. I feel like, some of the things that I've seen that change wise is kind of, you know sometimes that empathy aspect of it, we can get so caught up in compliance and everything that's going around it, right? But we use we lose that human touch where we can sit down and have a conversation, right? We don't have to be super friendly, right? Because you can kind of blur that line, and that line could get, then after that things could go the other way. But at least meeting at that point where it's like, we can have that human connection, and then from then on we can kind of start talking about, what things are needed to kind of help the future leaders truly develop themselves and move forward. Um, I think that, that's really the big thing I've seen. It's, we get so caught up in the day to day and so many things. I would really say, and I still say it out there, don't lose that, because I've been out in stores and I've seen some managers have an incredible connection with their team, and even their coaching, and sometimes there could be some uncomfortable situations, right, where something is said, something, and just that approach, it's not so black and white anymore. It's kind of more of the, how are we going to ease into this conversation? I think it's what I've seen that, has changed from from where I was, where it was just kind of like, hey, you're not doing your stuff, get it fixed. Now it's more of a development thing, and I think that's extremely important, and it's something that we need to continue to develop and build. I think it's extremely important, especially when I'm out in the stores, and if I see it, I like to shout it out, right? I don't approach my job as somebody who's just gonna point out all the negative things. I want to be able to shout out everything good that I see. And since I've had this such huge perspective of all these different jobs that I've done, I like to be able to share that. Whether they listen or not, it's up to them. But
Oh, they listen. Yeah, they
I
listen.
don't hold anything in my pocket, so to speak.
I got to tell you, it's what I was hearing from you last week, and I'm hearing from you today, is that connection it was important back then, and it's even more important now. You mentioned one other thing I thought that was that was really interesting when we talked about last week. You talked about now more than ever, you have to really go into great detail to explain the why behind why we do what we do. Talk about that a little bit and some of the conversations that you've had even recently.
Yeah, I would tell you that it's very important to me for someone to understand what's needed, or like, let's say, even with my kids, I practice this with my kids, right? And I have a 4-year old that he's now, the world's a wonder to him, right? But I need him to understand that when daddy's upset, or if daddy's calling your attention, there's a reason why behind that, and this is why we don't want to do that, because we want to go this way. And I'm not saying to treat your employees like kids, or anything like that, but that's a really important factor. If there's a clear understanding of why, not just, hey, we got to reach here, but why, if everybody buys into that part of your vision, it's a lot easier to be able to lead, right? Because everybody's sharing that, everybody understands, and when we get there, that's a big celebration, right? Every little battle, although it may seem little, it's all going to lead into something bigger and better, right? So being able to really have that why down, and making sure that everyone understands that from the get-go, it's just going to have everybody totally invested in it. At that point, it's not just you reaching something or a goal, right? It's the entire team striving for the same thing, and it just makes it that much sweeter. I can't, there's dumb, I can't say the importance of it. There's not enough words for me to say. Obviously, I'm stuttering here, right? But it's just extremely important to me to understand in anything that I do, why am I doing it? Why am I so invested in it? Because at some point, and this is consistently with everything, if I ask myself the why am I pushing forward? Why am I doing it? And I can't answer myself, then maybe, hey, it's something that maybe I shouldn't be doing anymore,
Uh,
And so now, I haven't felt that way in forever, but there's always got to be a why behind it, because I know that if I understand the why, I'm going to give it my all. So it's the same thing. My team should understand when I led stores, my team should understand why. We would have meetings, and completely break it down. And this is what it is. And this is why I need you to care. So, depending on the buy-in, I would know how to coach and how to kind of break down, because maybe some people will be invested in it for different reasons, but it's okay. As long as they understand why we're trying to move there, whatever motivates them to move there, it's gonna work. But everybody's on the same page as to why we need to do it.
That's so awesome, and that really ties in with what you said at the beginning about one of your best traits being to have a lot of patience, because there's different levels of buy-in, and
Yeah.
when you have that relationship that you talked about, you're able to gauge that a lot easier. Okay, I'm going to get back over to Kenny because I could tell there's something that's bubbling beneath the surface that I'm going to need to talk to him a little bit further about, and having that patience. I love that. I could talk to you all day, man. And but it's so interesting because I thought about this morning. I said, why didn't we just do this in person? We can do this in person now. You're not that far from me.
Absolutely.
I'm out here on Long Island, and you're in New Jersey. So we have to make it a point to do it in person, because there's a lot more I probably want to get into with you. I think we just kind of scratched the surface, but you've given us so much, man, and I want to thank you for that. And I thank you for the legacy of your dad, and just that one lesson that I know when people watch this, they're gonna be like, wow, next time I have that, WebEx interview, or just that phone interview, I'm gonna show up, right? I'm gonna
Yeah.
dress up. If this guy was dressing up in 9 days out of 10, nobody saw him except him and the kids. That's just an
Yep.
awesome story. I can't wait to share that.
Yeah.
So I get your commitment. You're gonna come back on with me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we could definitely do it in person. I'll look forward to that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. We just got to find somebody, to hold a camera for us, something like that. We'll figure that out. Well, folks, share this, share this, share this. This is an inspirational leader. For those of you who are lucky enough to have him in your realm, take advantage of his expertise. He has definitely seen it all, and he continues to see and new things and come up with new ways for you to be successful. And so, Ish, I can't thank you enough, man. Thanks so much. So, folks, we'll leave it there. This has been Kenny and Ish. This has been the Yak with Mac. We will talk to you real soon.
Thank you, Kenny.
You got it.